I'm Fredrik Leilani, and I'm the filmmaker.
And I'm Leilani Farha, and I'm the advocate.
Hello, advocates. This is Pushback Talk, and this is our, the way of us keeping alive, putting words to each other, and we call it word food. Let's play with words, Leilani. I have 3 words for you.
3 words?
Yeah, they can be...
Not just one word?
No, they can be combined.
Okay.
Women, life, freedom.
Iran. Of course. Although now the movement in Iran is far broader than women, life, freedom. One might just say life and freedom for everyone. Huge protests, obviously. I mean, it gives you chills to see people fighting for their freedom, right? But also chills to see the regime's reaction. I saw yesterday or this morning body bags. And we've had more than 2 years of body bags, like front and center on our social media with Gaza as well. And we don't see body bags from Sudan, but we know people are dying. And I mean, many other places, Congo. And so, yeah. And then there's something funny about what's happening in Iran. I like here, and I'm interested in your perspective, the protest was outside the U.S. embassy, but calling on the U.S. government to intervene, to help them, etc. And that makes me not suspicious, but concerned.
First of all, I would say women, life, freedom. The power of the women in Iran, we said it before, is like, it's so inspiring. And I think also if you look historically, the researchers have said this, that women-led uprisings are more successful generally than uprisings where men has been in the front line. So there is something very specific in this. It's normally because the women-led protests are more non-violent, and non-violent protests are also more successful. So that's one thing. So I think there is a special hopeful thing about what's happening in Iran, that the women are in the lead, and they have been so, I mean, the images coming out of young women are really impressive. Then you mentioned the call for the US stepping in. And in one way, I mean, the Iranian exile is huge in Canada, in US, also here in Sweden.
Yeah.
And of course, they want to be able to go back home, and they want the regime to be kicked out. And they don't really care who's doing it, I think, emotionally. And I mean, that also comes back when you talk about Venezuela. A lot of Venezuelans said, yeah, okay, now the dictator is out. And now emotionally you can understand them, even if it shouldn't be like that a foreign power steps in. And more than taking him, they also killed 80 people. That's Venezuela. And I can also see that Israel and the US, they have a plan. And obviously this proposing of the son of the Shah is a part of that plan. They need somebody to sell into the people of Iran, which is, and of course we should be suspicious of that, because it should be the people of Iran who kind of choose their own leader. It shouldn't be proposed and propelled by the social media of other nations.
Yeah. And I mean, the same for Venezuela. It seems like, in fact, it was some kind of a backroom deal with the vice president, and, reading all these things. It's very alarming, especially because I follow the politics of the region, of the Middle East, as it's called. And, of course, if the U.S. gets its foothold in Iran, it has huge implications for the region and, of course, for Palestinians, very particularly, who are already being wiped off the face of the earth, but will be completely wiped off the face of the earth. So it's...
Yeah, but I mean, you could also claim that the Iranians maybe hasn't been good for the Palestinians either, even if they've been supporting.
Correct.
So they have
Correct.
also been propelling, wars.
Yes.
And I mean, and they're supporting an extreme part of the Palestinian resistance movement instead of supporting
The people.
the people in the middle,
Yes,
the
exactly.
people who
Most people.
who can. Yeah. So I think that's. I told you a long time ago that I was at the first Middle East peace conference in Madrid, where the Palestinians and Americans and Russians met for the first time. And the Palestinians present there were like the people in the middle, the reasonable people who could talk to everybody.
Although I don't know anymore about painting Hamas, for example, as being so radical. I mean, is it really radical? They've changed their constitution, so they now accept that Israel must exist. Is it so radical to want your land back? I mean, land back.
No. But it's radical in the form of this kind of Islam that it's very hard against women and gay people and so on, which we also see in Iran. And I'm really happy to see those kind of religious guys go out in the margin. I really hope that happens in Iran. I hope it happens in Palestine. So, but then that's another debate. But Iran, it's scary to see what happens, and you never know how it will end.
Exactly.
So we'll just have to be...
And at what cost and for whom.
Yeah.
All these bodies...
There are some people shouting out now on social media that, where are all these voices who speak for Palestine? Why are they not talking about Iran? And why don't they talk about Sudan? I think that's...
I think I don't like those arguments. I have to say that. I mean, you can say it the other way. All the people supporting Iran, did they actually support Palestine? Let's not. We have enough divisions between people. I hate that. Creating more divisions.
I totally agree. And I'm for the people of Ukraine. I'm for the Palestinian people.
Exactly.
I'm for the Iranian people, and the Sudanese and the Congo.
Human rights, equality, justice, international law, which doesn't exist anymore.
And women, life, freedom.
Absolutely. Women, life, freedom. Okay. I have one
you.
word for you. It's a place.
You have a place
Alabama.
For me. Alabama. That's deep south, old slave state. I've been to Alabama. It was actually very strange. I met somewhere in Georgia a guy who was organizing, a black man organizing prison wardens in Alabama. He was a unionizer. So I went with him to, I don't remember the town in Alabama, but so I got a little bit of insight into this kind of very tough place. But then, of course, I guess you've seen the documentary, The Alabama Solution.
I just watched it. That's why it's on my mind.
Yeah. And it's a film I recommend everybody to see, The Alabama Solution. I think it's out on Warner, HBO, something like that.
I think it's HBO.
And so it's shot inside prisons in Alabama, and it's the inmates making a rebellion, basically. And we follow the rebellion, and it's... but it tells another story, because it's also about... When slavery was being illegal, they kept having legislation that made it easier to lock up black people. And so people were not allowed to walk around freely because then they could get arrested. And so there is a deep tradition of locking up black people, Afro-Americans. Do you recall the European Americans? I don't know. But it tells a story of patterns that never left. And now when you see what is happening with ICE, somebody says ICE is like the Gestapo of Trump. But somebody, I just saw it somewhere, is that we shouldn't use a European reference.
Right.
ICE are the slave patrols. ICE are the people who were out looking for slaves on the run.
Wow.
And this is like the deep tradition. And it was also legal So slave patrols were legal. They were following a law. And neighbors could call and say, there is actually a slave running around this neighborhood. And this is exactly what is happening now.
God, what a history. What a history.
It's an extremely violent history of the United States of America. And of course, it doesn't make all of us free of most countries have a dark history, of course. But the Americans, what the Germans did after the Nazis and the genocide of Jews and Gypsies, they actually made a legislation, and they really tried to do it differently and to try to change something more in depth. We haven't seen that in the US.
No.
And now also when we see that Trump is also taking away all these affirmative action things, and, that people of color could get into universities, or poor kids or whatever, or Native Americans, all these programs are gone. And if you mention them in an application, your AI will kick you out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I watched the Alabama Solution documentary yesterday, and with my daughter, who has an interest in criminal justice systems. And I have to say, I was completely shocked. I mean, I knew about the corrupt prison system and slave labor and all of that to some degree, but it was completely harrowing to see the conditions, and then to see the attitudes of the mostly white reporters saying things like, well, they're in prison. What kind of conditions did they expect? Their life shouldn't be okay. And I mean, the death rate, suicide rate, drug overdose rate in those prisons in Alabama is off the charts. They're living with rats and vermin and, completely unsanitary conditions, solitary confinement for years and years. Like, just the idea that some people could rationalize the treatment of other people, even if they, and, as you say, these are people who are picked up for almost anything.
Yeah. So it's very minor crimes. Yeah.
Like, one of the guys, I was actually thinking about this, had gone into an unoccupied building. He did nothing in the building as far as they knew. He hadn't stolen anything. I don't know if he was homeless and living in the unoccupied building, or he was just in abandoned building, like a squatter, right? So, and you think, and he was in prison for decades.
Yeah.
Decades. And in fact died in prison. So,
and they killed him in prison. Yeah.
They killed him in prison to silence him, really. Anyway, a documentary that must be seen. But it got me thinking about Alabama, obviously, and the history, but also it ties in with what we were talking about with Iran. Rosa Parks, very famous Rosa Parks, was from Alabama. And before Rosa Parks, there was a woman actually, well, for those who don't know, Rosa Parks is the black woman who refused to move to the back of the bus in times of segregation, racial segregation. And she refused to move to where the blacks, who were called Negroes at the time, were supposed to sit. There was, in fact, I learned this morning, a woman before Rosa Parks, and this is interesting. Her name is Claudette Colvin, and she, in fact, was on a bus and was seated and was told that she should give her seat to the only white person on the bus, and she said no. And so she, in fact, was a precursor to Rosa Parks, but it was decided within the movement that she was too black, too dark-skinned, and too poor to be able to drive a movement, a civil rights movement. And so it was Rosa Parks who was more palatable, who ended up driving the movement. I found that fascinating.
Strategies, and sometimes you can understand them. That, I know when I do a documentary, you need a main character to be interesting, work on screen. It's like we have in my film called Push, a main character called, what's her name?
I don't know.
I don't know, Leela.
A nobody from a nowhere town.
Yeah, exactly. And she made a hell of a difference, didn't she? So, I mean, I could have found somebody really boring from the UN to put in the film, and it would have been a boring film.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, maybe it was a right choice of the movement. I hope they...
Yeah, just interesting. Just interesting.
It's totally interesting. Also, movements have to be strategic and smart sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And just one last thing, going back to the Alabama solution, what those inmates did was incredible. I mean, they went on strike because they run the prison system through their free slave labor. And they went on strike, and it was a non-violent strike for many days, 16, 17 days, something like that. Amazing, given that they were living in conditions that really provoked violence, and many of them were violent in the prison to survive. And there they were on strike, arm in arm, non-violent, just amazing.
And I will say also what impresses me, I shouldn't be impressed by it, but it's also the high level of education amongst these inmates. Really articulate, smart people.
Exactly.
I mean, it's also thinking about the loss of society to lock up so many good people. I mean, so everybody's losing out when there is somebody who could contribute to society.
Exactly.
Is then just kicked out. So it's the US is a very sad place on the planet, unfortunately. And this is, I mean, I know the prisons in Iran are not better, so they can compete with Iran and China maybe. But it's
Israel.
What we call Israel. But if we talk about the so-called civilized world, I don't think that exists, but what they use, the US is right in the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's human rights. So.
Agreed.
If we talk about documentary, I can mention one more very quickly. It's called The Perfect Neighbor. It's on Netflix, and it's totally made with body cams from policemen in a neighborhood. And it's basically about the gun rights where people can kill each other without a price, especially if you're white and you kill a black person.
Crazy.
So that's also, have a look, Perfect Neighbor. Thank you very much, Leilani.
Thanks, Fredrik.
We talk next week.
Yep.
And to friends, if you want to support the podcast, send us some money on Patreon. It's not bad. Patreon.com, Pushback Talks. See you.
See you.
Pushback Talks is produced by WG Film. To support the podcast, become a patron by going to patreon.com/pushbacktalks. Follow us on social media at make_the_shift and push_the_film. Or check out our websites, maketheshift.org, pushthefilm.com, or breakingsocialfilm.com.